Hi there, and welcome to Ancestral Recall. I'm your host, Eli Kaplan. This is a Magic YouTube show examining the depths of Magic's history, set by set, explaining what cards were dominant or made contributions in different formats, which cards made history or set precedents. I'll also point out fun cards for casual, cube, or EDH play, helping you bring a piece of the game's past to life. Last time, we took a look at 2001's Planeshift, the second set in Invasion block, explaining the story, mechanics, and a few of the cycles. This set continues its focus on multicolored spells, allied color spells, keeping Invasion's focus on the allied pairs. Planeshift differs from Invasions by having more focus on three-color allied combinations, though, which would later be called Shards thanks to Shards of Lara. Today we're going to talk more about the cycles and the standout cards of the set. I don't want to make the three-color shard cards sound too prominent because there weren't that many of them. You can look at the Battle Mages as perfectly playable cards even if you can only pay one of the kicker costs. But the most powerful cycle of the set were the Charms. Like the Guild Mages, the Charms were inspired by Mirage's and Vision's charm spells. You could pick the best of three options at instant speed. Now, while the previous Charms were 1 mana and probably not worth one card themselves, 3-color Charms are all worthy of being counted as a single card. The most powerful and played charm was Dromar's Charm, which could counter a spell, shrink a creature, or, well, it could counter a spell. I mean, that's enough for a lot of people. People craved counter magic, or at least they did in Japan when I was playing when this set came out. Japan, at the time, loved control. My favorite charm was Crosis's Charm, which could tear or boomerang. And yes, occasionally it could take out a key artifact like Planar Portal. Here's why I don't want to give the charms too much prominence. They were powerful, okay, and fun to play. But the best 3-color cards in the block are the Elder Dragons, which were printed in Invasion. The Elder Dragons were awesome, powerful, they did nasty things when they hit opponents, and all of them saw tournament play. They helped sow the seeds for EDH Commander. The Charms are great utility cards, key role players, just to be clear, but they don't have the same gravitas as the Elder Dragons in my book. To assist players in playing 3-color allied decks even more, players got an uncommon cycle of lands, the Layers. The Layers required you to bounce a non-layer land to your hand when they came into play. The nice thing about the Layers, they get to come into play untapped. Layers stunted your mana development on the whole, but for aggressive decks, they were solid adds. Also, contrast these lands with Invasion's Coastal Tower cycle. That's another way Wizards hinted at Planeshift's 3-color theme. If you read the novel for Planeshift, you get to know some of Urza's Planeswalker allies. At the time, Planeswalkers were insanely powerful, able to form new planes at will or to snuff out a plane en masse. So the idea of capturing their power in a card at the time was unthinkable. But their aid was represented by a cycle of rare enchantments. Let's look at one of the best of them, Planeswalker's Scorn, representing the actions of Tevesh Svat. This enchantment does nothing when it hits play, but if you pay 4 mana, then your opponent has to reveal a random card from their hands, and the spell will give a creature -X/-X, where X is the converted mana cost of the revealed card. This means that you have almost no chance to manipulate what shows up, and your opponent will be scrambling to empty their hands of non-lands. This is not a great card, but, thematically it's cool. For the record, the other Planeswalkers represented in this cycle are Commodore Guff in white, Beau Lavar in blue, Lord Windgrace in red, and Freyalise in green. There are a lot of cards that give bonuses if a creature's color is just right. Runes of the Dais from Shadowmoor comes to mind. And if you want to make a fun cube card that can shut those tricks down, you should try Aurora Griffin. This 4-mana 2/2 flyer will bleach anything for a turn, even lands. The nice thing about Aurora Griffin is it doesn't tap to activate, so you can use it as much as you want. One of Magic's oldest combo tricks involves using creatures with protection from black and Pestilence, one of the most powerful black enchantments ever printed at common. Doing damage to 1 to each creature? Yeah, that's good stuff. Again and again? Yeah. If you're interested in abusing Pestilence, then you want Lash Knife Barrier. This enchantment can protect all your creatures from 1 point of damage every time damage is dealt. Sounds sweet, right? Especially with Pestilence, or if you're red, you can pull off the same trick with Pyrohemia. The best part is, Lash Knife Barrier's a cantrip. Orim's Chant was a favorite of combo players, who wanted to have a turn of grace so that they could play their spells uncontested. Shutting down your enemy for a turn is also a very powerful tempo play. It didn't take long after Mirrodin's Isochron Scepter saw print for players to figure out that if players couldn't do anything on their main phase ever again, that was a game-winning strategy. So yeah, this was an immediate archetype when that got printed with Mirrodin. If you enjoy playing 5-color creature decks in EDH, you may want to try Samite Elder out. This cleric will give all of your creatures protection from the color of a permanent you control. Get this out with the Sliver Queen, and your army is safe as houses. Voice of All is the final culmination of a mega cycle. 4 mana 2/2 angels with flying and protection from a color. The cycle starts in Urza's Saga. The first two, Voice of Law and Voice of Grace, have protection from red and black. Okay, sure. Why not print 2 angels with protection against their enemy colors? Seems logical. There's nothing stopping Wizards from printing this and suggesting a cycle. I mean, it's just protection. That's what White does. And then, another 2 sets later, in Urza's Destiny, we get Voice of Reason and Voice of Duty, shield against White's allies. That was unusual. And then another 2 sets later, we get what was expected to be the final piece of the puzzle, Voice of Truth, which shows White stopping internal conflict with protection from White. That's cool, right? Cycle complete? Well, in a set with lots of multicolor cards, we get Voice of All, which requires a bit more white out of the cost than the others, but lets you take the color of your choice. Domain is a powerful theme of the block, so in this set we get a Domain Hoser. Planar Overlay makes each player return 1 land of each basic type they control to their hand. If you're playing mono blue in EDH and want to set back your multicolor opponent's development, this is very potent. You get to bounce 1 land, and your opponents bounce 3 or 4. But be careful, this card can create grudges, and mono blue players already have a problem with it, I've observed. If you want to punish players for having more cards than you, Dark Suspicions is extremely effective. It also hurts all of your opponents, not just one, so this can be a very cruel thing to do in EDH. This is a real rattlesnake card. Legacy decks, running lots of small creatures that want Demonic Tutor, do have access to Diabolic Intent, which does require a creature sacrifice, but is otherwise identical. It took a long time for Wizards to print a simple, straightforward Zombie Lord after ABU's Zombie Lord. Players wanted it for the longest time, and with Planeshift, we finally got Lord of the Undead. There are lots of Elf Lords today, but if Elf players wanted to give +1/+1 to all their guys, they had to wait from 1993 until 2000 to get Elvish Champion, and Zombie players had to wait a few months more. Unlike Elvish Champion, Lord of Atlantis, or Goblin King, Lord of the Undead doesn't grant evasion, but it does let you raise zombies at a very affordable price. I do love this guy. But I have a bone to pick with this card. It doesn't pump skeletons, vampires, mummies, or spirits, all of which have been classified as undead. But hey, I grew up playing D&D for a while before Magic, so I think about that kind of context. If a cleric can turn it, this guy should pump it. Lord of the Undead has a great name and is a great card, but still, I want a bit more. Speaking of griefer cards, here's yet another. Warp Devotion is a cheap enchantment that tacks on a discard to every bounce spell you play, or your opponent plays. This is utterly cruel when combined with things like Cyclonic Rift or Upheaval. Some Magic cards are so famous that you can just refer to them by their initials. SCP? Swords to Plowshares. COP? Circles of Protection. And Flametongue Kavu was so famous, you didn't even have to use its proper initials. I mean, FTK seems better than FK. Anyway. But Flametongue Kavu had a lot of power for 4 mana, but there was more. When this guy hits the table, it dealt 4 damage to another creature. This was hands down the best limited card to open and draft in the set, and I pumped the fist every time I drafted one, and I'm usually not that demonstrative. Goblin Game's wording is goofy, because in order to play this damaging spell, you need objects. You don't just pick a number. Now, the same way to do this is to get a piece of paper. Yeah, but this is a Goblin Game. Who needs sanity? Now, there's a lot of text on this card, and Wizards wanted to push this effect for casual and out of constructed Magic by forcing people to pay 7 to play the game. But there are few spells more memorable, few spells more of an experience than Goblin Game. And yes, I boarded it in and played it at the pre-release, and it got me a game win. Quirion Dryad is one of my favorite creatures in all of Magic, thanks to it being in one of my 2 favorite decks of all time, Miracle Grow. This girl gets out of hand incredibly quickly in short time, rewarding you for playing spells and cycling through your deck. To be honest, the only other card that I can compare this to is Tarmogoyf, and in some aggro control builds, I think there's a few decks which can make Quirion Dryad even better than Tarmogoyf. Someday, I'll do that Miracle Grow retrospective. Do you guys want to see a history of a deck? Let me know what you think. If we talk about the archetypical Goblin deck, obviously it's red. But if a Goblin deck has a second color, it's usually black. Shadowmoor's Green Goblins notwithstanding. While Planeshift didn't have any black goblins in it, what it did have is allow players to pump all their goblins and make them black with Dralnu's Crusade. This was quite relevant in a standard environment with Circle of Protection red. For you Vorthoses out there, Dralnu is a Lord of the Undead, and his card in Time Spiral was utterly dominant for quite a while as part of a black-blue control strategy. I've seen players who run green-white in EDH and don't run Eladamri's Call, and that's a mistake. Having an instant speed tutor that gets you any creature in your deck and puts it in your hand, not on top of the deck, is just plain sweet. Questing Fel de Graaff was the pre-release foil and was printed in classical Greek. This purple hippo can fly, protect itself from its enemy colors, and pump itself, all while helping out someone else. Unlike the original Fel de Graaff, Questing Fel de Graaff isn't legendary. What a shame. Like the original, Questing Fel de Graaff is an amazing political card, helping you make friends in all sorts of ways. What's better, since it doesn't do general damage, people are far more forgiving of you for playing this than the original. So give this purple guy a try. You'll like it. Dum-dum-dum-da-dum. Da-dum-dum-da-dum. 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 Seriously, it's a great removal spell. And when I played it in Japan, despite the language barrier, I often did my best Arnold and said, "You're terminated." Hey, I'm a child of the 80s, what can I say? Let's take a short break to look at the most expensive cards of the set. Final verdict. Here's the deal with Planeshift in a nutshell. Everything that's fun and exciting about Invasion is pretty much true and present here with Planeshift. Gold cards are fun and get to do things most Magic cards don't get a chance to try. There's less domain cards in the set and more of an emphasis on the 3 ally combinations, but the domain spells are still here. The gaining guys are fine, but not impressively so, and there's a lot of room for frustration there. While Invasion's Elder Dragons do 3-color more impressively than any of the 3-colored cards in this set, even the Battle Mages? The Battle Mages and the Charms are pretty awesome and fun to play. I used to have all of them in my cube. Then again, I've always been pretty rigid with my cube's mana fixing options, making it hard to find anything strictly better than the basic lands, so that the cards like the Battle Mages are a payoff. Aside from playing Tung, Kavu, and Orm's Chance, there weren't too many cards that shook up Standard. Players had to wait for Apocalypse and enemy gold cards to really shake up the format. But Planeshift was a set that encouraged aggression, and after the flow of Mask's block and its grindiness, Planeshift kept the aggression going, so that was a step in the right direction. And that's why I'm going to give Planeshift a score of 6 out of 10, good. There weren't enough real innovations in the keyword department, but the set was balanced and led to fun gameplay, so that's enough to give it some props. That's it for Ancestral Recall this week. Please be sure to leave a comment telling us what your favorite card from Planeshift is, or which one you're most excited to try out in the future. Next time, we're going to head back to 1995's Ice Age, a set that I recall quite well as the first attempt to define a new direction for Magic after the brokenness of ABU and the hesitation to print powerful cards after Legends. Ice Age is the first major standalone set, a set that was designed to be played by its lonesome or mixed with other cards. How does it live up to those standards? You'll find out in September, when we'll be back with new episodes. Stay tuned, and if you enjoyed this, please like this video and subscribe if you haven't already. This is Eli Kaplan for Ancestral Recall, signing off. Good games and good luck.